Racist couple's shocking attack on black man over parking spot 10 minutes later, his incredible act of courage will leave you breathless. Marcus straightened the cap on his head, his knuckles brushing against the silver emblem of a veteran, a badge of honor from his days in the military. Standing in front of the small, vibrant bakery, the aroma of freshly baked goods filled the air, mingling with the warmth of the Saturday sun. Today wasn't just any day, it was the day he poured his heart into fundraising for his daughter, Mia's school, and showing her how strong a community could truly be. Just as he eased his truck into the parking spot with satisfaction, a flash of movement caught his eye. An aggressive couple stormed toward him, their faces twisted in anger. "This is our spot. You need to move," the woman shouted, contempt dripping from her words. The man stepped forward, fists clenched. "You think you can just come here and," he gestured wildly, hurling slurs that stung like knives. The laughter and chatter of families around the bakery dimmed as gasps lingered in the air. Marcus felt heat rise in his chest, but he couldn't let them see his fear. His thoughts drifted to Mia, whose big brown eyes looked up at him with admiration. This was not just about parking, this was about standing tall for her and showing her life's worth fighting for. An uneasy tension hummed around them. Neighbors peeked out from shop doorways, clearly caught between wanting to intervene and the fear of choosing sides in a heated dispute. Marcus's heart raced, pounding like the engines he worked on at the garage. But then, the figure of Mr. Jenkins, the wise elder and fellow veteran, emerged from the gathered crowd. With age came the grace of restraint, and as he approached, heads turned. "That's enough," he said firmly, eyes blazing with calm authority. Mr. Jenkins' voice radiated respect and wisdom. He spoke of community bonds, justice, and kindness, each word slicing through the hostility like a knife through butter. The couple faltered, their bravado wavering under the weight of his convictions. In that moment, conversations about privilege and solidarity sparked among the onlookers, creating a bubbling discussion that exposed the prejudice lying beneath their suburban landscape. Just when Marcus felt the oppression of despair looming over him, something incredible began to happen. One by one, people started to step forward, voices combining in a growing chorus of support. Friends, neighbors' faces wheeled into view with warmth, solidarity, and shared stories. As he locked eyes with familiar faces, Marcus realized they weren't just bound by the struggle of today. They were a family, deeply woven into the fabric of one another's lives. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Yet, as the community rallied, Marcus felt a tug at his heart. The questions that emerged were heavy. What did true justice even look like? As emotions danced around him, he steadied his breath, assessing the crowd filled with potential for change but shadowed by the unresolved issues of their world. With a mix of hope and uncertainty, he prepared to share his thoughts, ready to unfurl his heart and ignite minds. But in that vulnerable moment, a stumbling block loomed. An unexpected incident on the fringes of his support galvanized Marcus into questions. Could they rise together against the hurt and prejudice that infiltrated their lives? Or would this unity fade faster than it had come? As the voices of support grew louder, Marcus stepped forward, feeling the warmth of those around him, bolstered by their courage. But just as he opened his mouth, an ear-piercing scream echoed from the edge of the crowd. It was a young girl, no more than 10 years old. "Stop it. Just stop," she cried, her face pale and shaking. Eyes darted towards her. Even in the chaos, she stood there, trembling and wide-eyed. Behind her, a few kids peeked out, frozen in fear. The couple shifted, caught off guard by this unexpected interruption. For a brief moment, their intimidation faded. Marcus felt a jolt of disbelief. How could a child be the one to speak against such a terrible display of hate? The crowd seemed to hold its breath, waiting for something to happen. Marcus took a step back, feeling the weight of the tension tighten. The couple exchanged glances, uncertainty creeping into their expressions. The woman opened her mouth to hurl a fresh insult but stopped short. The girl's innocence and horror were written all over her small frame, and it made even the most hardened souls hesitate. "Why can't we just share?" The girl continued, her voice shaking yet defiant. "Why can't we just get along? It's just a parking spot." Her words rang out as if heralding a change, and the silence gave way to a wave of murmurs, small voices agreeing with her. Marcus could see Mr. Jenkins nodding slowly, and then others began to do the same. There was something unifying about her shout, turning fear into resolve. He looked around and felt that unshakable bond building in the air. There was more to this than a single incident, this was a moment to reshape their community. They couldn't let hate fester and grow. His heart raced, not just with anxiety but with a burgeoning sense of purpose. "She's right," Marcus shouted, drawing attention back to him. "Let us not let anger define us. We can turn this around if we find a way to lift each other up instead of tearing each other down." Some of his friends edged closer, supportive expressions on their faces. Behind them, the crowd began to echo some of the sentiments, murmurs rising into affirmations. "Yeah. Exactly. Let us stand together." He felt the beginnings of something powerful, and with a clenched fist, he raised his voice over the noise. "This isn't just about today, it's about showing the next generation how we can be better together." The couple faltered, and anger morphed into confusion. The gathering was shifting, building a momentum of support. But instead of backing down, the man stepped closer, eyes flaring with indignation. "You don't know what we've been through to protect our own." Marcus's heart sank. He could see the division beneath the surface, a wall built on fear, a stark boundary wanting to separate them. Would this moment define their future, or would it just be another missed chance? Suddenly, Mia pushed through the crowd, reaching for her father's hand. "Daddy! Can they really be nice?" she asked, her eyes wide with hope. Before he could answer, Marcus felt the weight of their eyes, heavy with expectation. This was about so much more than a parking space. It was about courage, love, and whether they could achieve understanding in a world so fragmented. Would he be able to show his daughter that kindness could triumph? Or would they remain divided, lost in the self-made trenches of indifference? As uncertainty clung to the air, Marcus knew they had just struck the surface of something deeper, something that could either heal or break their community apart forever. The moment hung, pregnant with possibility, as they all waited to see how it would unfold. What would Mia choose to believe in, and could they build a bridge to a better tomorrow despite the shadows looming around them? The tension was palpable, hanging thick like fog. Marcus could feel every heartbeat echoing in his ears as he looked at Mia. Her innocent eyes searched his face, seeking reassurance, understanding, and perhaps hope. What could he say that would make her believe in the goodness he so desperately wanted to cultivate in their town? "Of course they can," he finally said, though his voice wavered. "If we all choose to be kind to listen." He glanced back at the couple, now exchanging confused looks. It was as if his words struck them in unexpected ways. "Listen." The woman scoffed, regaining her bravado. "Listen to what? That we should sit here and let everyone take over?" Her anger was a raw, festering wound, exposed and refusing to heal. "No," Marcus countered, "listen to each other. Listen to why we're all here today." He stepped closer, igniting the connection growing in the crowd. He could see others catching the fire in their eyes, drawing together, bridging the gap fostered for far too long. The world can seem big and scary, but if we listen, we can find common ground. You're not just defending a parking spot, you're defending the fear that makes us isolated. The man scowled. "And what would you know about it?" His tone dripped with disdain, yet there was a tremor of uncertainty behind it, hinting at doubt creeping in. "I know," Marcus said, his lungs heating with urgency. "I know that we're all afraid to lose what we have, but that fear shouldn't divide us. We have to learn to share instead of angrily holding on." The murmurs behind him grew louder, voices mixing as others gathered strength. Mr. Jenkins stepped up, echoing Marcus's sentiments. "Yeah, this is our home. We can either support each other or let things spiral out of control." In a flash of internal conflict, the couple's defiance began to crack. The woman's lips pressed into a thin line, and for a moment, she seemed to contemplate the possibility of a new experience, a moment of connection rather than confrontation. Mia stepped in front of her father, her small frame looking delicate yet fearless. "Can we all just be friends?" she asked, her voice carrying a wisdom beyond her years. The contrast of her innocence against the backdrop of adult conflict struck a chord. The hesitation in the air was thick. Marcus watched as expressions shifted, doubt melting on some faces while others remained skeptical, tethered to old grudges. Mia didn't wait. "I think we should all have a pizza party," she said with a bright smile. "Then we can talk together." There was a beat of stunned silence, and a chuckle broke through from nearby onlookers. It was almost contagious, the laughter, and soon others were smiling too. The absurdity of a child's optimistic proposal lifted spirits slightly, as if it were a gentle breeze sweeping through the stagnant air, but it stopped abruptly when the man from the couple spoke again, his voice tinged with bitter sarcasm. "You think a pizza party will solve everything?" Marcus felt the weight of those words crashing down. It could be so easy for this moment to slip back into darkness, the easy despair wrapping its coils around them once more. Would they fall prey to the temptation of cynicism? Mia looked up at her father, her eyes imploring him. Electrified by the emotional charge crackling all around, he took a breath. Sometimes, it's those small moments, those bits of shared laughter that can lead to understanding. We can start there, can't we? Marcus saw the flicker of contemplation pass through the couple's eyes, but fear still hung over them like a storm cloud. What would it take to remove it completely? What would it take for them all to heal and genuinely connect? The crowd stood on a precipice, anxious for consequences both light and dark. Would they grasp this moment, let it bloom, or allow it to wither under the weight of confrontation? As the pair exchanged glances, the future seemed to hang in the balance, promising either reckoning or reconciliation. What would they choose? The answer lingered unspoken between them, a breath away from clarity. The laughter didn't hold for long. The spark of light-heartedness began to wane as the moment of truth hovered above them, suspended. Marcus gazed into the faces around him, a swirl of hope and skepticism blending together like paint, each person a different shade. The man from the couple was unyielding, arms crossed defiantly across his chest. "You think we can just forget about everything that has happened? It's not that simple." His voice rang out loud enough to summon a few murmurs of agreement from the back, as if the crowd had split into factions. Mia's small hand tugged at Marcus's shirt. She stood firm beside him, her expression a mixture of worry and determination. He wanted to reassure her, to tell her that everything would be okay, but the shadows of doubt were creeping back in from the corner of his mind. Would they really come together? He didn't want to let her down. "Nothing worth having is easy," Marcus replied softly, feeling as if he were facing a storm. "We've been divided for so long. But if we try, if we really try, things can change." A woman from the back stepped forward, her eyes glimmering with tears. "My kids are scared to play down the street. I don't want them growing up in a town filled with hate, where they have to hide who they are." Her voice trembled, revealing a raw vulnerability that ricocheted through the crowd. Heads nodding in silent agreement were the first signs of a shift, however slight it might have been. The couple exchanged glances again. This time, their expressions were less certain, a little softer. The woman sighed, her shoulders dropping ever so slightly. "You don't understand what it's like to lose," she said, her bravado cracking. "It's not just about a parking spot. It's everything." Marcus took a step forward. "Then let us help you. Because don't we all want to feel safe? We want to feel that we belong. We can create a community where no one has to lose anything, just gain more together." Slowly, glances shifted toward the couple. The man's jaw moved slightly as if trying to process the words. Maybe we all just need to let our guard down. And just like that, a tentative bridge was built between them, shaky but recognizable. In that exact moment, Marcus felt the ground beneath him shift just a little bit. There was a glimmer of hope. Can we really do this? The man spoke softer now, a hint of genuine inquiry in his tone. Yes. Sipped in from the crowd, a voice of conviction that bolstered the atmosphere with expectancy. Then, as if the dam had finally broken, a few voices climbed over each other, the irritable squabbles, the hidden doubts, and the years of division pouring out like raindrops after a long drought. People began sharing their stories, their fears, their struggles. Mia, eyes wide, turned to her father, a smile creeping onto her face as she realized that change was beginning to brew. Just like that pizza party she suggested. Maybe it wasn't so silly after all. As the conversation surged, Marcus caught the couple's eyes again, and he could see something beautiful beginning to take form. But it wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. What Marcus didn't know was that the true test of kindness was yet to come. As the crowd began to truly welcome each other into their shared experiences, a loud crash echoed from the street nearby. The celebration fractured instantly, eyes wide with fear and uncertainty again. Everyone turned toward the sound with dread. In that moment, they were faced with a choice, to step back into their old ways or lean into the chaos and choose connection over fear. And as they moved, eager yet hesitant, what would they discover on the other side? The crowd collectively held its breath. The laughter and stories faded into the background as expressions shifted to confusion and concern. Marcus felt the tension wrap around him tightly, like a vice. There it was again, the fear that had danced on the edges of their gathering. What was that? Someone whispered, gripping their partner's arm tightly. I don't know, but we need to check it out. Stay close, Marcus urged, scanning the faces around him for reassurance. He didn't want to feel alone in this moment. As they made their way to the street, a knot twisted in his stomach. Mia stayed close to him, her little fingers clutching his hand. He could feel her heartbeat fast, like a bird trapped in a cage. Daddy, I'm scared, she whispered, her voice barely above a murmur. Me too, kiddo, he replied, causing a sense of urgency to surge through him. This was supposed to be a moment of connection, of healing. And now, it all hung in the balance. They pushed through the gathering crowd and emerged from the warmth of their discussion to the coldness of reality. Just ahead, amidst a swarm of bodies, a man lay on the ground, a young black man, his shirt torn. Angry voices drowned out the stillness, yet there was a haunting silence from the bystanders, a collective disconnection that ricocheted back to Marcus. The couple from earlier was at the front, their faces twisted with anger. You can't park there. That's our spot. The man shouted, his voice dripping with venom. It was as if all the hurt and division had solidified into this one explosive incident, threading through their community like a disease. We didn't mean to take it. Just calm down. The young man pleaded, desperately trying to pull himself up. But the other man's aggression only intensified. This wasn't the healing they had just begun. This was chaos. Marcus felt a surge of heat rise in him now. He couldn't look away from the scene unfolding. Stop it. He yelled, an unfamiliar strength propelling him forward. You don't get to treat people like that. Not now. Not here. He stepped between the couple and the man on the ground. This isn't about a parking space. It's about all of us learning to live together. You can't just. That's not our problem. He shouldn't be here. The woman shot back, her eyes wide with something that felt a lot like fury. The crowd murmured, unsure. The tension was electric, raw fear mixing with the potential for solidarity. Marcus could feel the scorn curling around him, wrapping around both groups like a coiled snake. Some nearby were nodding, connecting with his words, while others remained locked in their silent anger. I know how it feels to lose everything, Marcus continued, raising his voice above the clamor. To feel like you don't belong. But this isn't the way forward. We need to help, not hurt. Just look at him. Mia's grip tightened painfully on his hand. He could sense her fear, her confusion. He wanted to protect her, shield her from what was unfolding like a terrifying movie scene. Suddenly, he noticed the young man was no longer cowering. He pulled himself onto one knee, looking at the couple, and then scanning the crowd with fierce determination. There was fire in his eyes, a desire for connection that surged forth, a mirror of the hope Marcus had tried to foster. "Help me up," the man said, his voice loud enough that it cut through the defiance. Marcus felt the shift, the trembling ground beneath them beginning to stabilize, but would it be enough? Where will this end? Someone whispered, and the question echoed back to Marcus. The stakes were high, and deep down, he realized that this was not just about the man on the ground or even the couple. It was about all of them standing there, confronted with their past and the choice they each had to make moving forward. Would they lean into the chaos together, or would they splinter apart again? He took a deep breath, feeling Mia's small fingers entwined in his own, drawing warmth from her innocent belief that there was goodness to be found here. But tension hung thick in the air. And just when hope dared to flicker anew, they heard the sirens wailing in the distance. How would they face this moment, together or apart? Would they seize the opportunity for understanding and change, or let anger dictate their futures once more? The wailing sirens cut through the air, a harsh reminder of the reality closing in. Marcus's heart raced as he scanned the faces around him. Some were anxious, their eyes darting from the young man on the ground to the approaching lights. Others were resolute in their anger, fists clenched, jaws set tight. The young man rose to his feet, drawing strength from within as he straightened up, brushing dirt off his torn shirt. He locked eyes with the couple, his gaze steady, yet filled with a humanity that seemed to break through their fury. "Please," he said again, voice steady despite the chaos. "Let us not do this. We're all part of this community. Let us talk." His words hung in the air, pregnant with possibility. The crowd hushed, uncertainty dancing on their faces. Marcus felt a flicker of something electric, like hope sparking in the darkness. "What's the point?" The woman spat, but there was a tremor in her voice. "Some people just don't belong." Mia squeezed Marcus's hand tighter, pressing her small body against him. "Daddy?" she whispered, her eyes wide. He could feel her pulse, a frantic drum, and it mirrored his own rising anxiety. "We belong together," he said, turning towards her, his voice a low whisper filled with fierce conviction. "All of us. We're better when we stand united." He looked back at the young man, now standing tall, breathing heavily but unyielding. "You know, it's not just a parking spot, it's about respect. It's about being human." The crowd shifted again, some nodding, others unsure. The couple's tight expressions softened just a fraction, and Marcus took a small step forward. "What if we had a conversation instead of this? What if we really listened to each other?" To Marcus's surprise, the man finally lowered his fists, taking a deep breath. I don't even know your name," he stammered, glancing between the young man and his own partner, the anger beginning to melt into uncertainty. "His name is Sam," a voice from the back called out. "And he's my neighbor. We've got to do better." More voices joined, people stepping forward to add their thoughts. Each word piled on the next, forming a bridge across the turmoil that had erupted. It was messy, but there was also a shared recognition in their faces. This was a chance for something different. Marcus kept Mia clutching his hand, squeezing her reassuringly. Each pulse of energy from their surrounding community brought an undeniable warmth, dissipating the chill of fear that had gripped them just moments before. "What do you think, Sam?" the woman finally ventured, her voice shaking slightly. "Do you want to talk?" The young man hesitated, glancing over at the couple. Little moments of vulnerability floated around them, holding everyone in place. "Yeah, I do," he replied, his voice steady despite the rapid rise and fall of his chest. "I'd rather talk than fight." As Sam spoke, a background of sirens faded into the distance, replaced by the buzzing murmurs of conversation spinning up like a storm building in the distance. But beneath the surface, the flame of uncertainty still flickered. Marcus watched as the small moment of connection unfolded. They were at a crossroads, teetering on the edge of progress or relapse. Would this fractured group lean into healing, or would they buckle under the weight of fear and bias once more? His stomach twisted with apprehension. The tension may have eased, but it was still all too fragile. And in that instant, the question loomed larger than life: would this moment of understanding ignite a lasting change, or would it burn out before it could truly begin? The air buzzed with an intensity that felt almost electric. Sam stood in the center, the eyes of the crowd piercing into him like arrows, waiting for him to take the first step toward healing. The woman, her fingers twitching, glanced at her partner, who wore a look of deep contemplation. It was a moment suspended in time, every heartbeat echoed with both fear and potential. "We've all messed up," Sam began, his voice quiet yet firm. "I know I don't fit the picture of your perfect world. But I'm here, living in this neighborhood just like you." His words flowed, the initial fear ebbing as he spoke with honesty about his experiences, unwanted glances, whispered judgments, and moments of isolation. He was trying to carve out a space for understanding, a chance to forge connections rather than deepen divides. The couple remained quiet, their expressions shifting as they processed his words. "I just want to feel like I belong," Sam concluded, his voice softened, almost brittle. "I didn't choose to be different. None of us did." The woman's brow furrowed, and for a moment, a flicker of something remorse, perhaps, flashed across her face. Marcus felt Mia's grip tighten, her little fingers digging into his hand, absorbing the weight of Sam's confession. He looked down at his daughter, his heart swelling with pride for the courage she was witnessing. "What if we listened?" A deep voice emerged from somewhere behind Marcus. It was Mr. Jennings, an older gentleman known for his no-nonsense approach but also for the wisdom he exuded. "What if we really listened to each other, not just to respond but to understand?" The crowd stirred once again, tension morphing into fragile curiosity. Heads nodded, murmurs of agreement rippling through. Sam's eyes appeared brighter now, emboldened by the chance at dialogue. "Let us talk about what we've been carrying," he implored. "I carry mine every day. It's exhausting. What about you? What burdens are you grappling with?" The couple stood frozen, trapped in the sudden weight of self-reflection. The forces of fear and anger that had once driven them were now being challenged, the harshness softening into vulnerability. Finally, the man hesitated, then spoke. I guess I've felt my own struggles too." "You wouldn't know that, would you?" That was the turning point, the first crack in the armor of their hostility. The woman's expression shifted, guilt creeping in like dawn creeping over the horizon. "It's hard to accept that everyone has their battles." "I didn't know." Marcus held his breath as the tension shifted into something palpable, something promising. Resentment felt like a wall being chipped away brick by brick, and in its place, the warmth of understanding began to seep through the cracks. Mia looked up at Marcus, her eyes sparkling with hope. "Will they be friends now, Daddy?" she asked quietly. "I hope so, sweetheart. I really do." But underneath that flicker of optimism lay a new anxiety. Could it last? Could one moment truly shift years of division? As words began to flow freely, stories shared openly, fears admitted aloud, Marcus felt the weight of a community striving to understand one another seep into his bones. But he couldn't shake the lingering doubt. In this small gathering, everyone was at the edge of something monumental. Would they choose connection, or would fear claw its way back? Deep within, he realized the real challenge was just beginning. What would they do when the sirens of the past faded, leaving only silence behind? The moment felt frail, yet the air hummed with the weight of change, offering a tantalizing glimpse into the future. But the question remained, would they pursue it, or let the noise of the world drown them once more? The conversations began to twine together, interlacing stories and emotions. Faces that once wore masks of indifference now displayed signs of empathy. Sam found his courage growing, buoyed by the appreciation in the crowd's eyes. He was on a path now, but there was no sense of certainty about where it would lead. As he looked around, he spotted Mrs. Thompson, a retired school teacher known for her no-nonsense attitude. "My husband used to say there's good in all of us," she spoke, her voice shaky yet resolute. "But he never made me really think about how my actions and words might affect others. I've spent too much time focusing on my own comfort, my own beliefs." In that moment, her admission sparked a wave of courage rippling through the crowd. A young man stepped forward, his hands trembling. "I haven't been kind either," he confessed. "I've laughed at jokes that weren't funny, just to fit in. I'm so sorry." With each person who stepped up, the environment dripped with realization and remorse. Heavy hearts were being bared and reparable wounds exposed to the light. The woman, still lost in thought, clutched her partner's hand, squeezing tightly as if to anchor herself to his presence. "Maybe we all have more in common than we think," she finally said, her voice breaking. "We've all experienced fear, loss, and loneliness, haven't we? Maybe that's worth talking about too." Marcus felt that familiar warmth, a sense of solidarity wafting through the air. The crowd began to lean in, eager to share their struggles. This felt different, like the moment you take a deep breath after holding it too long. It was messy, yet spectacular, as layers of misunderstanding peeled away to reveal raw humanity. Mia tugged on his sleeve. "Daddy, will they be okay like Sam?" "Yeah, honey. I think they might be. But they need to want it, too." His own heart raced. He felt the enormity of what was unfolding. People were choosing to show their true selves, and with that choice came vulnerability. Jennings stepped closer, his voice growing firmer. "It's not enough to just feel. We have to act. We have to take what we've learned here and use it to better ourselves and our community. Actions speak louder than words." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. It was a call to arms. Genuine change required action. But how? How could they ensure that this moment wouldn't fade away with the sunset, forgotten by the dawn's light? As the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in strokes of orange and purple, a quiet urgency filled the air. Marcus understood that highlighting their shared humanity was just the beginning. They would have to build on this moment, turning empathy into tangible steps forward, or risk falling back into old patterns. Mia looked at him, wide-eyed with anticipation. "What happens next, Daddy?" "I don't know, sweetheart. But whatever it is, it begins now. We'll show them that understanding leads to action." But deep down, beneath the hope, lingered a gnawing uncertainty. Could they sustain this momentum, or would doubt creep back in, blinding them from the path forward? As laughter and storytelling filled the air, Marcus realized they were navigating new territory. The journey could lead anywhere toward hope or heartbreak. They were right on the edge, and then he heard the sharp sound of a voice cutting through the crowd. "Let us not forget what brought us here in the first place. We can't ignore the hard truths." Was this a slip back, or just the start of something greater? The crowd fell silent, tension strung tight like a bowstring. The voice belonged to Alice, a woman known for her fiery debates and fierce honesty. She stepped forward, her features set in determination. "We can't gloss over the pain," she declared, her eyes sweeping the gathering. "We're here because many of us have hurt each other often without even realizing it." Marcus felt a shiver run down his spine. Her words were fractured mirrors reflecting the truth they'd all been trying to acknowledge. He glanced at Mia, who was now biting her lower lip, sensing the weight that lingered in the air. A ripple of murmurs grew louder, people recalling nights filled with fear, encounters filled with bias, unspoken resentments bubbling beneath the surface. Someone yelled, "What about those who are silently suffering? Do they not matter?" Their voices intertwined, creating a tapestry of vulnerability and pain. The air became electric with shared identity, but it was raw and jagged. It cut deep. Mrs. Thompson took a step forward, her presence authoritative yet nurturing. "We speak of kindness, but kindness without accountability is empty. We must confront our biases, our defaults. To remain comfortable is to remain blind." Sam listened, nodding slowly. This was the BS sting they needed to feel sharp and awakening. It hurt, but it also kindled a fire inside him. He pushed his way through the crowd, standing beside Alice. I felt those biases too. Growing up, I often minimized others' experiences because I was afraid of my own. There's no excuse anymore. With every shared story, the crowd wrestled with their own demons. It was an unsteady dance of regret, of shame, but also of hope. Marcus sensed the push and pull of every heart, inching closer to something significant. The sun had nearly vanished, leaving behind hues of twilight. Their shadows loomed larger, reminding Marcus that they had a long way to go. It's time for us to listen, to learn, to hold space for one another. We're all flawed, but together we can build something stronger, Marcus called out, his voice pouring with conviction. Right here, right now. We need to start now. The faces around him shimmered with resolve, yet Alice's brow furrowed. What does that even look like? She asked, frustration clawing at her tone. Words are easy, but actions are harder to grasp. Do we really want to fight? A heavy silence blanketed the gathering, and then Mia spoke up. We can be friends if we really try. Her simple, childlike belief struck like a lightning bolt. Marcus's heart swelled. It reminded him of the innocence that often got lost in adulthood. Could they bridge the gap simply by choosing each other? Yes. Mr. Jennings exclaimed, his voice filled with warmth. It starts with conversations. We need to create spaces regularly. Let us build a community where our voices matter. Where we can share, question, and support. But as they moved toward a vision, Marcus noticed Alice's frown deepening. She looked toward the entrance of the park, her gaze sharpening. And what about those who refuse to confront themselves? Those who embrace vulnerability? The question hung there, heavy. Do they focus on those eager to change, or those who resist it? The tension in the air thickened again, as eyes turned in Alice's direction, waiting for a response. Mia clung tighter to Marcus's side, sensing the unease. If they join us, what happens then? She whispered, and the simple dread in her voice chilled him. The crowd buzzed with uncertainty. Were they ready to take on the hard truths, not just of their pasts, but of their present? Would this newfound clarity turn into action? And would they risk losing the comforts of their surrounding silence to push for a better future? A single voice could ignite change, but how would they respond to the voices eager to silence it? Would they rise or would they retreat? As the first stars began to twinkle in the darkening sky, one thing was certain: the night had just begun. The crowd buzzed with uncertainty, swirling around Marcus like the evening wind. Each person held a piece of the collective anxiety hanging in the air. Sam stood at the center, courage radiating from him like a beacon, and with each passing moment, uncertainty crept into his heart. Every moment of truth offers a chance, he said, voice steady despite the tension. A chance to move forward. He took a deep breath, scanning the crowd. We can't ignore the hurt. We can't gloss over our fears. We need to face them, together. Murmurs rippled through the gathered neighbors. The gravity of Sam's words cut deep, piercing through the fear they had all felt. It's uncomfortable, he continued, voice rising. It forces us to confront the ugly truths. But it also gives us the chance to grow. Mia tugged at Marcus's shirt, her eyes wide. Do they really want to grow, Daddy? He squeezed her hand, a knot forming in his stomach. They will need to want it more than anything else, honey. The couple stood in silence, the woman's brow furrowing as she absorbed Sam's honesty. The man, fists still clenched, wore a conflicted expression, fear battling against the echo of vulnerability searching for release. Yeah, we've all been hurt, the woman finally exclaimed, softer now, as if confronting a reality she had long buried beneath layers of anger. But we've got a choice now. Maybe we can't fix the past, but we can make today different. The tension in the gathering eased ever so slightly, words of understanding swirling like the last rays of sunlight danced across the park. Marcus locked eyes with Mia, and for the first time in a while, his heart flickered with hope. "Let us take that step together," Sam said, encouraged by the shift. "What if we created a community forum? Regular meetings to really talk about our struggles and how we can support one another." The crowd's energy changed, a wave of consideration stretching across their faces. Others began to nod, the acceptance and possibilities materializing in the air like mist lifting after a storm. "Yes!" shouted Mr. Jennings, stepping forward with renewed fervor. "We need places to heal and connect where everyone feels safe talking about their experiences. A true community feels each other's pain and lifts each other up." "Yes!" echoed a voice from the background, igniting others to join in. "We can't just walk away again." That igniting momentum sent fresh energy fluttering through Marcus's chest. The words carried weight, restoring light despite the shadows that had lingered. Mia's eyes sparkled with joy, she could feel it too. "We need to hold each other accountable," the woman said, her voice quaking slightly yet unfaltering. "No more denying the truths or running away. If we're going to do this, we have to go all in." Together, Marcus chimed in, emboldened. "We all have something to gain, a real place of belonging." He glanced at Mia, whose bright smile echoed the hope bubbling to the surface. The couple exchanged a look, vulnerability splintering through their defenses as their walls began to crack. The woman reached for her partner's hand, and slowly, he uncrossed his arms. Behind them, the crowd murmured agreement, a wave of support rising like an overwhelming tide. "Let us choose kindness. Let us choose love," came a voice from the back. People were standing ready to challenge the old narratives that had kept them apart. As excitement grew, Marcus turned back to Sam. "Can we really do this?" His voice trembled with anticipation, that same electrifying feel swirling around him. "Why not?" Sam replied, the conviction in his voice unwavering. "Let us not waste another minute pretending we can't change." Marcus felt the energy of the crowd pushing him forward. They were ignited, unified by the dream of something better than before. Flashes of tears mixed with laughter and smiles. The sense of community, long tarnished by indifference, was beginning to shine again, and Marcus believed it was real this time. "Let us set a date." A young woman called out, her enthusiasm contagious. "Everyone come prepared to share your story." Murmurs shifted to loud affirmations, collective excitement seeping into their hearts. Mia looked up at her father, her eyes alight with hopeful wonder. "Can we eat pizza while we talk, Daddy?" He chuckled, pulling her close. "You bet we will." As laughter filled the space, Marcus felt the heat of change rise like the warmth of the sun breaking through after that stormy day. They were stepping into the future together, armed with love and understanding, a chance to redefine what their community could be. A connection, a future that felt bright, but beneath the surface, Marcus still sensed that the journey was fraught with challenges ahead. Each encounter would be an opportunity to learn, to grow, to stumble and rise stronger. The crowd cheered, galvanized by potential, their voices echoing against the fading twilight like a symphony of hope. In that moment, as they raised their collective spirit, Marcus knew that amidst the challenges and uncertainty, they would strive to create a foundation for true transformation, a refuge built on acceptance and genuine care. And they would never look back. Now, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories that inspire change like this one. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others discover the power of community. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending, we want to hear from you. And most importantly, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Your kindness could ignite change.